Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Reckless Paradise podcast. I am your host, Dystro, and tonight is another spooky season sort of episode, but it is a music-related spooky episode. This one is gonna be a random ranking or an album ranking for a band that is most synonymously with horror movies. It is Ice Nine Kills. Um, and I've been wanting to talk about this band for a little bit. I recently listened to all their albums over the last few months. It was like I think I did it within like 2 days, which is pretty good. And for those of you who do not know who they're an American rock group, and they're a metalcore band, and they've had 6 albums. They've had 5 EPs, one demo, 7 singles, and 25 music videos. And the most synonymous ones are from the Silver Scream and Silver Scream 2, Welcome to Horrorwood, because they came out in 2018, 2021, and they covered everything from like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Fly, uh, Cabin Fever. They've done like a lot of I guess horror movie knowledge and all that stuff. And the lead singer, Spencer Turnus, he's a horror movie fanatic, and I think everybody else in the band is too, which is actually kind of cool. But yeah, so let's dive on into this. So for some of these albums, when I was ranking them, I was trying not to like go off of anybody else's list or anything on the internet, because a lot of people have their personal bias towards a lot of music, and I just based it off of like how I felt, what I enjoyed about it, and all that stuff. Especially the top two. The top two was like it was kind of tricky to figure out like which one goes where. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But for those who do not know what album ranking works, we take however many albums and all that stuff, and we just rank it from, what however many that we have. It's like if it's the last one, that's the worst, and if it's the first one, it's the best. We've done this with AC/DC, we've done it with Foo Fighters, we've done it with Billy Talent, we've done it with all the bands that we've covered so far, and this one's gonna be another one on top of that list. For well, being very specific here, I tried to listen to their debut album. It wasn't really on Spotify. I had to find it on YouTube. And because Spotify got it wrong, Spotify put The Burning, which was a EP that they did in 2007. They put that as their like debut album. It's not an actual album, it's EP. So I had to do my due diligence here and do myself a service and like listen to it before recording. So that's kind of like ingrained in my brain a little bit. So I had to clear that up just before we started going into the ranking. But with that being said, let's dive right on into this. Now, number 6. Okay, there's 6 albums here, like I said. The latest one with I'm thinking it's the Silver Screen Part 3. We do not know when that will come out, either this year or next year. I'm actually kind of looking forward to it because they did a music video with Art the Clown from Terrifier, the Terrifier franchise, which I did talk about in the Spooky Halloween movies episode. If you want to know a little bit more about that. Um, it was actually very, very gory, and it was very, very awesome. And it's actually kind of cool to see the rest of the band members just like acting and all that stuff too. Um, don't know where it's gonna really go or really where it will lead to. Because it said to be continued at the end of the thing. And if you guys know a little bit about me, I am a huge horror movie fanatic. I love horror movies. Even though like I'm a little crybaby about them sometimes, but it's like we live and we learn, and I'm actually kind of excited for it. And you guys do not know how excited I am, but okay, enough about that. Let's get right on into this. So we'll start with number six. I am going with Last Chance to Make Amends, which is the debut album. I did listen to it, like I said. It is on YouTube, and I think I think since it's just the debut album, I think not a lot of people really gave it a chance. It wasn't really ranked or anything since it was their debut album, and this is like when ska was starting to kind of make a comeback in the late, like mid to late 2000s. Uh, which is it's not a bad thing, but it's not a good thing, sort of thing. And plus, some of the sound wasn't really mixed very well either. I'm thinking it's just maybe like a production issue or something. And plus, like this is Spencer's like I guess first album with the band as well. Because they had formed in the early 2000s as like with like high school friends and all that stuff, which is cool. Um, because they were just more like alt punk and ska and all that stuff too. Um, which I mean, like it's like I said, it's kind of nice to see like their roots and then how they've become now, because like they're very heavy metal heavy and very like just very like in your face kind of rock, which is kind of cool. There's always like people like there was a customer that had come up to me at my job, and he said like like we were just talking about Ice Nine Kills for like a hot second, and he's like, yeah, like if you see them live, like it's so amazing and cool just to like watch them live because they put on a huge performance, like movie level quality performance. And I'm like, man, it's like I wish I could just go to that. So yeah, debut album number six. Sorry, I think I just did get really into it. With the later five albums, I did really get into. So let's talk about those. So number five, it is the 2014 album, "The Predator Becomes the Prey." I think this one is starting to become kind of more like going into their horror movie roots. Because I think this is like when they start incorporating horror movie themes to it, especially with Every Trick in the Book as well. But I think like this one's like it's starting to become the catalyst of like what with Every Trick in the Book and then Silver Screen Part One and Part Two will become in later years. Um, and I love the cover art for it too. It's not a bad album. It's like there's some good songs from it. It's just not everybody's favorite cup of tea. And it's not like some of these albums are not ranked as well. Especially like like with the debut album and Safe as Just a Shadow, and I think The Predator Becomes the Prey. Um, it's like some of these albums they didn't get ranked really high, or they just didn't get ranked at all, which is a shame to see. So, um, but yeah, it's a live and learn sort of situation, and they do become better, which is good. So on to number four. It is the 2010 album "Safe is Just a Shadow." Um, I think this one's like it's a step up from their debut album. It kind of shows more of their becoming into what they become now, sort of thing. There is some ska elements still in there, which is from their debut album in the EP. Um, which is not a bad thing. I kind of liked it. They kind of like was like, okay, like let's take out the ska stuff in it and just focus on the more mainstream, like heavy metal stuff, like like because like Asking Alexandria is still relevant. Back in that day, Pierce the Veil was starting to become huge. In Memphis May Fire and Crown the Empire and all that stuff. So it's like all these like I guess influences I should say was starting to make them I guess seem more if I could put in a perspective like a more mainstream sort of band in a way. But then you have uh those first two albums, like it didn't really get them more mainstream audience, but then with from 2014 to now, it's like it made them more and more mainstream, which is a good sign of things to come for them in in 2014. with Predator Comes to Prey, and then every trick in the book with 2015, and then so on and so forth. Um, but we'll get to those in a little bit. Safe is just a shadow, man. It's again with the cover art. It is such a cool cover art. I wish I could have like a printed out uh picture of it on my wall. It is really cool. I don't know who creates some of their cover art, which is right, but they are very, very talented. If I could recommend a song from it, I guess it's like any one of them at this point. But it's up to you what you guys like. But I'm just a messenger. This is my ranking. You don't have to agree with my ranking, but it's just what my opinion is. So now on to the top three. Okay, so for number three, I put Every Trick in the Book. Now, Every Trick in the Book, that once again, I'm going to the cover art. It is from Fearless Records, and is their fourth overall. And each track is based on a piece of literature. So, like, for example, Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is, it's me, myself, and Hyde, and then you have Bloodbath and Beyond, which is Dracula. Communion of the Curse was The Exorcist, and Star-Crushed Enemies, which is Romeo and Juliet. The album peaked at number 122 on the U.S. Billboard 200, selling over 7,300 albums within its first week. And this is the last album the band released to feature Connor Sullivan on drums before he got replaced by the drummer for the Silver Scream, which will come out 3 years later. And I mean, it's starting to become more synonymous with their horror movie roots, because you have The Exorcist, then you have I think Carrie is one of them, and then so you have uh Doctor Doctor Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You have The People in the Attic, which is Diary of Anne Frank. You have Hell in the Hallways, which is like Carrie. You have Bloodbath and Beyond with Dracula and all that stuff. It is a really good album overall. I do recommend seeking this one out if you haven't already. But if it is my top three, I don't know if it's anybody else's top three, but it's to each their own. But the final two is the trickiest one of all. Alright, so now we're on to number two. Okay, so quick disclaimer. I liked both Silver Screen Part 1 and Part 2. Both for the not right or wrong reasons, but because of the horror movie aspect of it. I kind of, is a strong word here. I kind of liked how they presented the first Silver Screen in video form, and then with Silver Screen Part 2, it was kind of like a mishmash of like American Psycho, and then you have the court case and all that stuff, with Pet Cemetery and all that stuff. Saying like Spencer Charnas killed his fiance and all that stuff in the music videos, and then it's like it kind of doesn't go anywhere after I think Welcome to Horrorwood, I think, and it's not a bad album, but it's like, for my perspective, I think I kind of liked the first Silver Scream over the second one, but it's like one of those things where it's like, did I enjoy both of them? Yes, I did. But did I enjoy one over the other? Yes, I did. So for my second entry, I put Welcome to Horrorwood, Silver Screen Part 2. Now, hear me out on this. Silver Screen Part 2 does have some faults with it. I think it's just because like some of the horror movie references, or horror movie like movies in general, it's like I just did not get, sort of thing. Like, I loved Welcome to Horrorwood, I loved Salt and Batteries, the shower scene, funeral derangements, Hip to Be Scared, and it was like that was it. Like those 5 tracks alone I liked. Um, it's not to say, they didn't have some bad tracks on it. I think it's just because like some of the tracks like I just didn't really vibe with in a way, if that makes any sense. Um, like a rash decision and rainy day, and then take your pick and the box, the and fly, worst vacation and ex mortis and farewell to flesh. Like all those tracks were fine, but it's just like I just didn't get the like replay value out of them. Like the most I replay is like is Welcome to Horrorwood, Salt Batteries, Shower Scene, Funeral Derangements, Hip to Be Scared, and that's it. Those six tracks I replay a lot, and that says something because all those tracks I know the words to, like from top to bottom. Like I even do the screaming parts, and then I go into clean vocals with Spencer and all that stuff. And it's not to say that all those other tracks were bad. They weren't bad. It was just I think it was just maybe misplaced, kind of a little bit. And plus, like, I think like with some horror movie fans, not a lot of fans will get the references and all that stuff. Maybe either, because like a lot of people, maybe especially older people, like they'll remember Child's Play, Psycho, Pet Cemetery, Resident Evil, American Psycho, and Evil Dead and all that stuff. But then maybe some of them might not know a lot about the horror movie genre, like Gen Z, like 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 the millennial generation or anything either. Um, but it's not a bad album. It's not a bad album. I'm not gonna give it any shit or anything. I think there was like I think six of them were like videos or something. Which is not bad, but it's not good. I wish there was like a little bit more with some of them. I think it was, if I can remember correctly, I think it was American Psycho was one, and Resident Evil was one, Pet Cemetery was one, Psycho, Child's Play, and then Welcome to Horrorwood. I think those were the six that I remember. Um, but then when you go into like the videos and all this stuff, it's like it leads to a court case, and then it's like it doesn't really go anywhere and all this stuff, and it's like what the fuck. Um, but with that being said, my number one is Silver Screen Part One. I mean, I enjoyed the hell out of this. From start to finish, I enjoyed the whole thing. And that is really saying something. Like I remember, like okay, I I remember like from top to bottom, like all the others, like all the songs, I remember all the words to. I remember American Nightmare, Thank God It's Friday, Stabbing in the Dark, Savages, Grave Mistake, uh, and It Is the End, and then Jig Is Up and all that stuff too. And there's a lot of like good musicians on top of it too. Um, and plus, like, like the movies that they had in the first one, it's like, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Saw, The Crow, Jaws, Shining, The Devil's Rejects, Edward Scissorhands, Silent Night, Deadly Night, American Werewolf in London, and It. All these classic horror movies, and it's like in one. And even though Edward Scissorhands is not really a horror movie, but it's it's I guess in Spencer's mind it's kind of like one of those like I guess not a jab, but it's like kind of like a little bit of like a little nod to Tim Burton because he does create some horror movies sometimes here and there in some of his films. Um, I it's not a preference thing either. Um, I think my overall experience with Silver Screen Part One, I just enjoyed it from top to bottom, and what a good way to start and good way to finish. I think that also plays into Silver Screen Part 2 as well. It starts off pretty good, but then it kind of like falls flat towards the end. Whereas Silver Screen Part 1, it starts very off the bat with The American Nightmare, and then it ends with It Is the End. Um, Good start, good middle, good finish. And plus like the Grave Mistake is like it's the only song that does not have any unclean vocals or anything. It is very much in your face sort of like I guess ordeal. And plus, if you haven't seen The Crow or the music video for A Grave Mistake, it is really freaking awesome. Um, Also, like The Crow as a movie as a whole is really good too. Stars the late great Brandon Lee before his untimely passing that year when the film came out, and that was like his last movie role before his untimely passing. He was very, 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 very young too. I think like early to mid 20s, maybe early 30s. If I'm correct here. If I'm wrong, just let me know in the comments below, guys. I think you'll yeah, I think you'll let me know. Um, but yeah, if I had to pick, like a favorite one, like being untotally biased or anything, I would say Silver Screen Part One. That's like untotally biased, unbiased opinion here. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. How would you rank these albums? What was your favorite album out of the Ice Nine Kills discography? And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Now, next week's episode, it is another, I guess, another Throwback Thursday episode, shall we say. And in the spirit of Halloween, and Halloween Havoc is coming up towards the end of this month for WWE NXT. I figured, let's go back to the early or the late 80s, early 90s, and then to late 90s, and why not talk about the best of Halloween Havoc matches? And I have a good few matches to go through. Now, some of them are, from like that exact same time period or like a different time period or whatever. Um, Probably one of them you might know off the bat was Mysterio and Guerrero, which was talked about in I think, our very, very first episode of the Reckless Paradise podcast. Is like talk about Eddie Guerrero as a whole. Went over our favorite matches of his and favorite feuds and all that stuff. So please go listen to that episode if you have not already. So yeah, look forward to that on October 24th. And then it is officially the end of spooky season with Halloween night. But I'm not going to spoil it yet because I think you'll get a kick out of it. So, with that being said, thank you very, very much for watching and or listening to this episode tonight. Please make sure to follow us on all the social medias down in the description and the link tree in the description below. Will take you to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, or this YouTube page also, and my gaming YouTube channel. I am currently going to try to get to 1,500. That is a huge reach, but hopefully I will get to it by the end of this year. If not, there's always next year. And we always try to crush it and knock it out of the park. So please do me a solid and go subscribe to my YouTube channel, please. Thank you very much. And then tonight's song of the night, it is a Ice Nine Kills song. It's an Ice Nine Kills episode. Why not? So this one is from Silver Screen Part One, as per usual, and it is A Grave Mistake by Ice Nine Kills. I personally picked this one because it's the most somber one, but it also kind of has emotional attachment to me too. So that's why I picked it for the song of the night, and why not? So, thank you very, very much for watching and or listening. Like I said, Grave Mistake by Ice Nine Kills is the song of the night. And that's it. I will see you next week for best of Halloween Havoc matches. Peace!